gives a very simple answer to this question, what is the greatest commandment? But when we think about his answer, to love God with all our heart and our neighbour as ourselves, we begin to find all sorts of other questions arising in our minds. It's easy to talk about loving our neighbour. What about those times when loving someone else means doing something hard, like telling them an unpleasant truth? Or when we just don't know how to express our love for someone in the right way? Talking of loving your neighbour as yourself raises the question whether there are times when we should put our own needs before those of someone else. And what does it possibly mean to love God? We can't see him, we can't hear him, we can't touch him. How can we love him? To help us unravel these difficult questions, I'd like to remind you of a well-known prayer by St. Ignatius Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits. Take, Lord, and receive all my liberty, my memory, my understanding, and my entire will, all I have and call my own. You have given all to me. To you, Lord, I return it. Everything is yours. Do with it what you will. Give me only your love and your grace. That is enough for me. But this well-known prayer shows us, firstly, that one of the most obvious ways that love expresses itself is by giving gifts. We enjoy giving gifts to those we love, and of course we enjoy receiving them as well, even if they're not always quite what we wanted or expected. There's a hilarious poem by the English poet John Betjeman about Christmas, when he talks about the kind of gifts we often give at Christmas. I quote, "The loving fingers tying strings around those tissued fripperies, the sweet and silly Christmas things, bath salts and inexpensive scent, and hideous tie so kindly meant." Daddy or Grandad, who gets the hideous tie, hopefully knows that at least there's a lot of love behind this gift. And so very simply, St. Ignatius' prayer reminds us that we can begin to love God by recognizing what he has given us, starting, of course, with our very existence, to say nothing of the beautiful world we live in, with all its wonders. But of course he has given us something even greater, the gift of himself, in Jesus Christ, who was born, lived, died and rose again for our sake, and gives himself to us afresh in every Mass in the Eucharist. But as soon as we begin to think about this, we realize that loving God in a way must be quite simple. We want to express our love for him by giving him something. But what on earth can we give God? What does he want of us? He, the maker of everything, who needs nothing of all that we could possibly give. This, after all, is something that we slowly begin to learn in our family life and with our friends. It's not enough to give any old gift. We have to try, if love is to grow, to find out what will really give joy to the other person. This is illustrated in a delightful way by the DVD that we often use in our marriage preparation course, in which an Australian couple talk about their marriage. There's a wonderful moment where the husband tells how in the first few months of his marriage he always used to give his wife chocolates on birthdays and anniversaries, because of course that's what he loved to receive himself. He said it took him a while to realise the chocolates always ended up in the fridge. He was the one who actually ate them. Gradually he realised this awful truth that his wife didn't actually like chocolate. She must have been one of the very few women who don't. So it wasn't a tremendously loving way of expressing his feelings for her. And as their love grew, he had to learn by experience what gifts really made her happy. I think it's a little bit like that with loving God, as the prayer of St. Ignatius tells us. What does God really want from us? Well, he wants our love expressed in giving back to him. Not just a few bits and pieces of our life, but the most precious things he has given to us. Our freedom, our mind, our memory, our emotions, our will, all I have and call my own. It speaks, doesn't it, about a basic attitude we can have of openness to God, being totally available to whatever he wants of us, to do with us or do in us. It's an attitude we need to come back to every day, given our tendency to fall backwards into living for ourselves. It's an attitude perfectly expressed in those words of Our Lady to the angel, "Let it be done to me according to your word," wanting eagerly to cooperate with God, whatever that might entail, not necessarily understanding it. Another reason why the Rosary is such an important prayer for us as we've been reminding ourselves of this month of October. But there's something else there that this prayer of St. Ignatius tells us about loving God. Again, it's drawn from our experience of love in our daily lives. But love expresses itself not just by fine words, but by deeds. Someone may utter beautiful words of love to someone else, or be stirred by romantic feelings, but they never get translated into action. It's the same with God. We express our love for him not just by worshipping him on a Sunday or saying our prayers, vital as both these are, but by making a conscious endeavour to turn these fine words into actions, which means, first of all, giving time to God every day, giving time to prayer. Of course, that has to be adapted to whatever our particular situation in life is. If you're a retired person or someone with lots of time on your hands, then you can give God lots of time. If you're looking after a family and have a busy job, then obviously you have to find a way of praying during the day that fits in with that. Loving God then means also doing what we sense to be God's will. We have to make our best effort to find that out. Often the Holy Spirit gives us inspirations, little nudges that prompt us to think what God might be asking of us. Try to do what we know to be right for ourselves and others, and not neglecting to pull up the weeds in our life by confession and adopting a healthier way of living. Doing our best to put into practice the commands of Jesus to be compassionate, forgiving, a light to others in the darkness. It sounds very simple, and yet we all know that it's often quite hard because of our fallen nature. Some wise person once said, in answer to the question of whether loving God is easy, well, it's easy for those who do